What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Cadillac Cartoons, and today I'm going to show you guys how to create the Instagram logo from scratch in Adobe Illustrator. So as you can see, I have Illustrator up and running, and I have my color palette with the colors that we're going to use for today's video, and we can now get started on it. So the first thing that we got to do is create a square. So I'm going to go over here to my shape tool, which is right here. Conveniently, I have the rectangle tool selected, or if for some reason your rectangle tool is not showing up here, you can click and hold on that icon and click on rectangle tool. Now in our document, I'm going to create a perfect square. So to do that, I'm going to hold the shift key and click and drag to create a perfect square like so. And for now, we can change the color fill of that square to any color we want, because we'll be changing that color later, or at least applying a gradient to this square, right? So in my color options right here, you can set any of these colors to be the color fill of your square. Like I said, we'll be changing it later, so I'm gonna set that to like an aquamarine or turquoise color. Alright, and now what we're gonna do is give this square rounded corners. So if I go over here to one of my transform points in the corner, like if I'm going to rotate this square, which I'm not going to do, and if I come inwards, you can see that I have like a little circle icon here. And we can use this to create rounded corners or rounded edges on our square. So I'm going to click on that and hold it, and then I'm just going to drag it inwards to create rounded edges on our square like so. Alright, and now we have what looks like an app on your iPhone kind of shape, because that's what that's given, right? So I'm going to move this over here, and now what we're going to do is apply a gradient to this rounded square. So over here in my side panel, there's an icon that says gradient right here, so I'm going to click on that. Or if for some reason that side panel or that icon isn't there or isn't on your screen, we can go up here to window and click on gradient, because that's the tool we need to use. So in my gradient window, you can see that it has just a random gradient here. So I'm going to click on this gradient to apply it to my rounded square. Click on that. And you can see that after clicking on that gradient icon, it magically applied to our rounded square. Well, not magically, we set it to be that, but you know. But if we take a look at the Instagram logo, you can see that it's not a linear gradient and it's not a radial gradient. A linear gradient is just one color being blended to another but going in a straight line. But if I click on radial gradient, you can see that it's pretty much the same thing but shaped like a circle, right? So that's what a radial gradient is. The Instagram logo has neither of those gradients, right? So there's a special kind of gradient in Illustrator that's called a freeform gradient, and we can apply colors to wherever we want in our gradient. So I'm going to click on that. And you can now see that Illustrator applied random sliders with random colors and random positions within our rounded square. What we'll be doing is applying these colors right here in our color palette to this rounded square. And as you can see, we have little circles in our rounded square. I refer to those as sliders, right? And on those sliders has just a random fill color. So that's telling Illustrator that we want this area specifically to be that specific color. So what we'll be doing is I'm going to change this white one. I'm going to make that into this blue color that's in my palette, right? So I'm going to click on that stop. And then I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool, which is right here in my gradient window. And I'm going to sample that blue color by clicking on it. And you can see that that slider is now blue, and so is that area with that slider on it. So I'm going to do the same thing with these other colors here. So I'm going to click on this black one, and with my eyedropper tool still selected, I'm going to sample this purple color. But let's say we want to add another slider to our gradient, right? So I'm going to go back to my gradient window, and I'm going to make sure the eyedropper tool is deselected, right? So I'm going to click on that icon, and you can see that that icon is now not lit up anymore. So after doing that, we can go anywhere within our rounded square. And you can see that my cursor has like a little slider on it with a plus sign on it. By clicking anywhere within our rounded square, we can add a slider wherever we want. So I'm going to click right about here. And with that purple color still being selected, that slider is now purple. But just like we did with these other two sliders, we can change the color and the position of those sliders, right? So I'm going to move this up a little bit. And I'm going to add another one down here for that yellow color. So I'm going to click here. And the reason that's purple is because I still have that purple selected. So wherever I click, that purple color will be generated, like so. But I'm going to take this and move it over here and apply this hot pink color to it. So having that slider selected, I'm going to click on my eyedropper tool, click on that pink color, sample that, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this slider, but I'm going to make that this orange color, sample that, click on this slider, eyedropper tool still selected, so click on this yellow color. Alright, and now you can see that my gradient now has the colors of the Instagram app icon, right? So now I can take these sliders and do whatever I want with them. I can move them around like so. I'm going to move this orange over a bit. And add a slider right here, make that pink. That pink is selected, so it did that automatically. Right, move this up a bit. Alright, and that's looking pretty good for an Instagram logo. But let's say I want to make the color area of each of these sliders bigger, right? So if I click on one of these sliders here, you can see that I have a dotted circle surrounding that slider. So I'm going to take that and kind of expand the color area like so. And you can kind of see what that will do to the gradient as you adjust this. But in my case, I'm satisfied with how this looks, so all I can do now is reposition it, or if I want, I can still change the color area by going back to that slider and adjusting this dotted circle here however I want. But yeah, I'm satisfied with how this looks, so now I'm going to get back out of here. But let's say all of a sudden you want to change something about this gradient here. So I'm going to click on our rounded square again. And then in our gradient window, there's an option for you to edit gradient. So we're going to click that button, or if you don't have your gradient window up, you can also click this button that's up here in your workspace. Click on either or, it'll do the same thing. And now we have our sliders with all our colors in their designated positions, so we can still manipulate this gradient even when we go back out of this window. So that's how you do that. I'm now going to get back out of here. And what we're going to do now is create another rounded square for Instagram's camera on its logo. So what I'm going to do is hold the Option or Alt key if you're on a Windows. Click on that rounded square and drag it wherever you want. And you can see that Illustrator created a copy for us, just like it. So now what we're going to do is take this newly made shape. I'm going to go up here to my color fill, and I'm going to select none to get rid of that gradient. And what we'll be doing to this newly made rounded square is adding a white stroke to it. So up here in my stroke option, right now it's set to black. I'm going to click on that and then click on white. Alright, and now I'm going to adjust the stroke weight of it. The stroke weight should be right next to it, right here. It's set to 1, so I'm going to increase that. I think 35 is a good number. Alright, so I'm now going to take this newly made rounded square and I'm just going to kind of scale it down just a little bit. I'm holding the shift key while I do that too. Right, and now what I'm going to do is position this in the center of our first rounded square like so. Alright, but now let's say all of a sudden you want to make these corners less rounded on our newly made shape, which is this white one here. So we can do what we did earlier to create the rounded corners by clicking on one of our circles here, clicking and dragging that. And what we did earlier was we dragged these circles inward to create these rounded corners, but to make it less rounded, we can drag these circles outward like so. Alright, so now that's looking a lot like the Instagram logo, right? But now what we got to do is create the lens on this camera logo. So what I'm going to do now is go back to my shape tool. Right now the rectangle tool is still selected. I'm going to click and hold on that and grab the ellipse tool. Alright, and I'm going to hold the shift key again to create a perfect circle. And now you can see the stroke weight and the color of our circle here. It matches the stroke weight and color and all the properties of our newly made rounded square here, which is pretty cool. That's what Illustrator does. So I'm now going to position that circle in the center like so. And what I'm going to do now is take this circle and make a copy of it so I can make the little flash right here. So to do that, I'm going to hold the Option key again, click and drag to make a copy of it. And then on our newly made circle, I'm going to hold the Shift key and scale it down like so. Alright, and now I'm going to position this circle right here. Perfect. And now you can see that we have a good looking, very similar looking Instagram logo. And yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you create the Instagram logo from scratch in Adobe Illustrator. So if you liked the video or if you found it useful, give it a like and a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And I'll see you in my next video.